welcome to JIN Radio, your home for indies music in Japan. Hello everyone and welcome to JIN Logi Talk, Japan Indies Radio Talk, and I'm your host, DJ Aki. Now, most of you know me from JIN Radio as the host for Indies Musics in Japan, but today we're going to be doing this standalone podcast discussing life in Japan with some advice for people who may be wanting to come to visit or work here in the future. We're going to do different topics, and if you have questions about things, feel free to let us know. You can write something in the comments section of this video, or you can write something directly to us at japanindies.com. We'll put the address in the description as well. But today, our main topic is going to be answering a question about teaching in Japan, which actually I know a lot about. So even though I am DJ Aki, I do lots of music stuff, my day job is as an English instructor. So, quick resume alert. I've taught English in Japan for over 20 years. I've taught in English conversation schools. I've taught as an AOT or assistant language teacher from elementary school up to junior high school. I've taught solo in high schools, various companies, and now in university. I've also worked as an instructor manager, responsible for hiring and training newer instructors, among other things. So hopefully I can give some insight for those looking to teach in Japan in the future. So let's get started with the first question, teaching in Japan. Like, where is the best place to get started as an English instructor? So you actually have a few options, and some are harder than others. So today we're going to talk about two of the easiest ways to do this. And at the end, please go ahead and do your own research, because some of the things I talk about, while they are true, they might have changed. So double check that. Take a look at forums like Reddit or gaijinpot.com, and you can combine everything together to make an informed decision. But as far as I know, a lot of this information is still relatively up to date. So let's get started. As I said before, there are generally two easy options for people who may be coming here for the first time if they want to teach English. The first one is working at a major English conversation school, or Eikawa in Japanese, or becoming an AOT, an assistant language teacher for public or private schools. There may be some easier options, but often they do require you to be in Japan first before they consider you. So we're going to work at these ones instead. So let's start with the pros and cons of working at an English conversation school. So I've done that. When I first came here about 20 years ago, I was working at one of the biggest English conversation schools in Japan, and I stayed there for about a year and a half or so. So what are the good points of this type of school? Well, let's start out with, in general, they recruit overseas. So you may be able to apply and these days be interviewed online without even stepping in Japan. And so when I first did it, I actually was able to find a recruit brochure on my college campus. I then applied and went all the way to Boston from New York City to be interviewed. The interview went well and they hired me. But that was the process. Nowadays, you have online options, so you may be able to just do everything online before they hire you. Now, keep in mind, you will need to have a 4-year degree from a college to be eligible for the visa you need to teach. Now, this is not true for everyone. This is mostly true probably for Americans especially. Some other places you can get what's called a working holiday, where the restrictions are less difficult. But if you're American, keep this in mind. That's something you will have to have before you are able to get a visa, which means before you're able to come work in Japan. Now, the other good point. The bigger companies will often help you do all the logistical stuff, from helping you get your visa to arranging pickup at the airport to even arranging where you live. Essentially, they will set you up in Japan very quickly. So for people coming here for the first time, this is very good. You don't have to do a lot. They'll get everything set up for you. You're just signing paperwork, and often a lot of these things need Japanese, and they've done that for you. So this is a great way to kind of get a turbo start before maybe you decide to move on. Another good point, they usually provide some training before you start. Now, these are big companies, often backed by other bigger companies, so they are very concerned about their reputations. So they're going to make sure their teachers are trained up in some form or way. Sometimes training can be up to 3 days to 1 week to even longer, up until your probation finishes. So that's a good thing to kind of work on. You get a chance to kind of learn some new skills. Again, even if you are a teacher beforehand, they might be interested in making sure you understand how they expect you to teach. And so this is where a lot of this comes from. Again, a good way to get started, hopefully, and you'll be able to see a lot of different things about the company when you do get trained. Finally, they often have a more competitive salary. The salaries in general have kind of stayed stagnant over the years, if not have gone down. But many of the bigger schools, again, because they're backed by bigger companies, are trying to have more competitive salaries to attract better people. And so you have a chance to make a little bit more money, not that much, but a little bit more money, which is good. Also, these schools tend to be a little bit more trustworthy, basically when it comes to things like contracts, compared to some smaller or mid-sized places. They know what to do. They've done it over the years. Most of the time, it's very straightforward. This is what you do. This is what you don't do, etc. So again, these are one of the reasons that maybe a big Eikawa school might be a good reason to start with them on your journey, on your first journey to work as an instructor in Japan. So now we have those good points. Great. Let's take a look at some of the difficult points. Now, one of the biggest difficulties I'm going to talk about now, because I've talked about this with instructors I have hired or just interviewed, so they knew what to expect before they came. And one of the biggest issues often is the schedule. Most schools, especially Eikawa schools, usually have late night work and no weekends off. So teaching English is big business, and schools need to be open at times when people can take lessons. So many schools are open on weekends until 9 or even 10 p.m. on weekdays. This means you'll work weekends and you have maybe 2 weekdays off. Sometimes back to back, sometimes not. Depends on the school. So this can make it really hard to make time for other things like making friends, doing hobbies, or simply traveling, which is what a lot of people want to do when they first come to Japan. Of course, they're in Japan. But be aware these type of schools schedule may make it difficult to do so. It is doable, but it may be easier to do for some than for others. So that's one thing to be aware of. Another big thing, which is related to the first thing we talked about, again, it's related to the schedule. Again, it's something I do often talk about when I was working as a manager. It is the high teaching time. Eikawa schools work differently from traditional style schools. Lessons may be usually between 40 to 45 minutes, and you could do 8 to 10 lessons in a day, depending on the school and depending on the day. This adds up to about 8 hours with short breaks in between to do lesson planning and just have a break. So outside of your lunch break, it's go, go, go sometimes, especially on the weekends. And this can be very difficult for people to adjust, especially when they're just starting. You're pretty much on all day, and that is tiring. So it's not uncommon for people to just leave the job because it was too much. This has happened to me when I've gotten emails out of nowhere when I had just hired somebody and they had maybe 1 day or 1 week and they couldn't do it anymore. So these are things to consider when you do take this type of job. Some people have an image of English teaching in Japan or some other places where you're just going to go in and speak. And while speaking is a component, you're doing what we call student-centered learning. The goal is to get them to speak and be active and dynamic in the lesson and pay attention to change things if you need to change the level. A lot of things are happening and you're paying attention on a regular basis. That can be tiring. So be aware of that before you kind of join this type of job. And one other main thing, and this is actually depending on who it is, this could be a great thing or it could be a difficult thing. And to give some background, over the years, we have seen a dip in adult lessons. Even before COVID days, we saw a decline in adults taking English lessons. But there has been a steady upward tick, a steady increase of kids taking lessons. So as a result, many companies have been focused on trying to create more and more kids lessons in their schools. And often when you teach these kids, they're between the ages of 5 or younger to the age of junior high school. And so many schools expect their newer teachers and all their teachers nowadays to be able to teach kids in their classes. Now again, depending on the school, you might have more kids than others, but it's still the expectation, and it can be rough, especially when you're doing something on the weekends when all the kids come to take classes. So again, if you love kids or you were teaching kids before, this is great, perfect. But for some people who may not be used to it, this could be a bit difficult in the beginning, and the training is going to be a big part of kind of learning what you need to do or how to handle these types of classes. So be aware of this type of stuff before you sign up. Once again, do a chance to do some research, ask about different companies, see what they say, check out the forums. Some of those places can be a little bit negative at times, but they often do have information that you can kind of use to help you make informed decisions. So keep that in mind before you apply it to some of these places. But to sum it up, if you are trying to come to Japan for the first time to teach, often teaching in the Eikawa is a good step because you can get set up very quickly and they will help you in the beginning. And it can be a temporary stop if you want to do something else in the future. But keep in mind, the schedule can be quite hard and you may end up teaching many kids lessons if the school is quite busy with those things. Again, these are questions you can also ask during your interview when you are talking to someone from a school chain. And that is the main idea. So that is the pros and cons of English conversation schools, Eikawas, in Japan. What do you think? If you have any questions about it, again, feel free to put it in the comments or talk to us directly via japanindies.com. We're going to talk more about the next style, which is working as an ALT or assistant language teacher, in our next short show. So be sure to tune in for that. Until then, let's take a listen to some very cool music at the end with Etsuko Tajima and Burning Love. I'm your host, Tijiaki. I'll see you next time. Johnny.
Even though the pain remains, I wish you all the best. Floating numbers light your way to love and happiness. Hearts are beating faster now as the smoke clears our chest. Letting go can be hard, even for the strongest. Now the smoke has cleared and all you see is sunlight, and the water falls and washes all the pain. Now you can see the new beginning to your ending. Don't be afraid. Smoke has cleared, time to move forward. Love is made for us. Smoke has cleared, time to move forward. Smoke has cleared, and time to move forward. Love is made for us. Now the smoke has cleared and all you see is sunlight, and the water falls and washes all the pain. Now you can see the new beginning to your ending. Don't be afraid. Now the smoke has cleared and all you see is sunlight, and the water falls and washes all the pain. Now you can see the new beginning to